Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going over my top 5 rare premium ships. What is a rare premium ship? Well, I'm glad you asked. So a rare premium ship is a ship that has been previously released and was pulled from the either armory or the premium shop for one of a number of reasons. And you can only currently acquire them in events like the Santa Container event from a random super container, or sometimes they are brought back at auction. These are not the premium ships that Wargaming has been, for whatever reason, introducing in early access events like the Carl the 14th or the Navarin and just not reintroducing back into the game for 6 months. These are ships that have had their time in the shop but have since been removed. So that is the criteria for today's video, so let's go ahead and get on into it. Before we get into it though, if you have an interest in real ships and real live, real still historical ships, I would encourage you to check out yesterday's video where we tour the USS Laffey over in Patriots Point in South Carolina. The Laffey was the subject of the single largest continuous kamikaze attack in history. It's really interesting getting to see the ship I've heard so much about from you guys in the stream chat and in the comment section. So again, if you have an interest in those real still historical ships, I would suggest you check out yesterday's video. But now, getting into it, coming in at number 5, we have the one and the only, the Tier 9 Premium Soviet Super Large Cruiser, the Kronshtadt, the original super cruiser or large cruiser, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the Kronshtadt was the beginning of all of the large, as we call them now, cruisers. Those cruisers with the 305, 310-ish millimeter guns with improved armor and a larger HP pool than a typical cruiser at Tier 9. And man, has this ship aged so bad? So the Kronshtadt was originally released a short time before the Stalingrad was back in the day, and her whole situation is that she has the Stalingrad's guns, but they're nowhere near as accurate as the Stalingrad, nor is her hull as well armored as the Stalingrad's hull either. Her survivability really comes from her large amount of HP, which is, roughly the same of a Tier 9 battleship, right? But instead it's a Tier 9 cruiser. So you get that, and a kind of squishy hull with Stalingrad guns and radar. For the time when she was originally released, she was quite potent, but man, oh man, time has not been kind to the Kronshtadt. With all the changes that's happened to the game, the splitting of the commander skills to where these cruisers can no longer really build into, of course, decreasing their burn time like you can in battleships, and then these cruisers getting slapped with the battleship burn time a couple of years ago, that really hurt the Kronshtadt. Like I said, the Kronshtadt didn't really have that great of armor in the first place, right? So, it was like, okay, yeah, you a bad salvo here and there, but you still have the short cruiser burn time. Nope, now you have the battleship burn time, and you can't build into it in order to get that burn time down with commander skills, because cruisers can't do that anymore. And of course, with a lot of the global changes and just the ships that have continually been introduced into the game, this thing is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst large cruisers in the game. I mean, we have so many of these ships now at this point where, man, this thing's just like, it's an interesting ship to look back and see where the whole super cruiser started at, but again, it's been left in the dust. So if it does come up for auction, I really wouldn't worry about picking her up. You can still get the Stalingrad for steel, and it's a much better ship and has aged a lot better than the Kronshtadt, but time hasn't been exactly kind to the Stalingrad either. But again, her guns are still accurate, and she still has the better armor, so you can still do quite well with her today in random battles. Kronshtadt really only shines at close range against other cruisers if, they aren't focusing her down with HE. In those situations, she can still shine, but I really wouldn't worry about throwing up however much coal, doubloons, or steel they offer for if they do ever bring her back into auction, which they haven't. If you do pick her up in like a super container or a Christmas container, it's a pretty decent ship, but something that, again, it's from a bygone era, and just a neat ship to have if you're a collector, but wouldn't worry about trying to pick her up if you are, looking for a serious competitive large cruiser at tier 9. So going on down to number 4, we have the tier 7 British light cruiser, the Belfast. Oh, the old Payfast, if you remember that from back in the day. So take a tier 7 British cruiser, light cruiser, give it HE, give it its own smokescreen, give it 8.5 kilometer radar, and give it hydro. This thing's mean, still today, which is pretty impressive, because like I was talking about with the Kronshtadt, with all the other large cruisers and gimmicks we've had at higher tier, there's been a fair few things that have creeped its way into tier 7 as well, but still not quite to the level of the Belfast. This is a ship that can absolutely just terrorize, especially tier 7 matches. But yeah, it's a terrorizer at mid tier with all the utility that she has. And I mean, shoot, there's not many a destroyer today that I would say wouldn't, be worried if there's a Belfast on their side of the map. You got the smokescreen where you can just sit in there, radar them from 8.5 kilometers away. You've got HE, which, we have the British heavy cruisers now that have HE, but back in the day when all the, the British gimmick is that, hey, we don't have HE, but we have the improved AP. Yeah, this is quite the little fearsome ship back in the day, and one that has, again, aged quite well. Belfast, man, it's, they've tried to reintroduce her with the Belfast, was it the Belfast 43, and that one just, of course, wasn't nearly as good because it wasn't, well, broken like the Belfast was. Some fun facts too is that Wargaming was informed by the CCs and such that Belfast was just too much, and they didn't listen. Big surprise. They released her, and well, of course she had to be removed thereafter because she was just that good. So imagine that too, back in the day when every other ship didn't have radar and hydro, and Belfast gets both of them at tier 7. At tier 7. Yeah, so this is a ship that back in the day could see tier 5, and still, of course, today can see tier 5 as well, with radar, smoke, and hydro, all in one package. Yeah. Just great destroyer of DDs. Of course, you can farm down battleships with that HE, have your own smoke screen and everything. What more do you want? But again, only acquirable in the Santa containers. I don't think they're ever going to release this thing at auction because, I mean, they would probably make a bunch of money from people converting or trying to grab whatever resource they need to get in order to acquire her. But yeah, no, just a destroyer of worlds here with the Belfast. And going down now to number 3, we have the tier 5 Japanese destroyer, the Kamikaze. Now, the Kamikaze is such a good torpedo boat that even myself, my battleship main self, can do well in her. Tier 5 Japanese destroyer with 7-kilometer torpedoes with an amazingly fast reload time on those torps. Now, she does only have 3 tubes with 2 torps per tube, but, I mean, who cares when you're one of the stealthiest DDs at your tier and your torpedo tubes reload so fast you barely, the torpedoes haven't even reached the target most of the times when I'm playing the Kamikaze, and the tubes have already reloaded. So combination of that low detectability, that high torpedo reload time, that fast torpedo reload time, and you can just get right up next to the enemy ships at tier 5 and just chunk your torpedoes away. And of course, tier 5 is a tier where most players are still learning, of course. It's so easy to get to tier 5, especially nowadays with all the bonuses that Wargaming gives out with the promotional materials and such, and the fact that, tier 5 and below, you're going to run into a lot of bots and random battles, so you get to murder bots, get the random battles economy for it, so you can get to tier 5 pretty fast. So of course, shoot, there's still players like tier 9 and tier 10 that don't know what they're doing, right? So tier 5, if you have a Kamikaze, and you even have half an idea of how to play torpedo boats like I do, you can just absolutely just drag those poor tier 5 players through the mud with the Kamikaze, especially the battleship players too, because so many of them just love to sell in a straight line at that tier. But again, they love to do it at tier 10 too, right? Well, they love to do it at tier 10 when they're on my team. When they're on the other guy's team, and I'm in like the Jaeger or Kitakaze, I'm sorry, the Kitakami, right? Then they can use their rudder, right? But anyway, at tier 5, Kamikaze, man, it's a dream, right? Just one of the perfect Seal Clubbers. And there's a couple different variations of it. There's a Kamikaze R, then I think there's another collaboration one as well. So if you do get either the Kamikaze or the Kamikaze R, it's a wonderful, wonderful tier 5 destroyer. And one that I would probably say would actually be worth the auction if they bring it back for credits or whatever, how they like to do with some of these rare ships. I would say it's definitely one I would recommend you try to get. And most definitely, if you do pick it up in a Santa container or Super container, you just won the lottery, and your RNG is probably going to be terrible for the rest of the year because of it. But yes, an excellent tier 5 premium, great Seal Clubber, but probably is for the best that she has been removed for sale, because that's just too much power to give somebody. Alright, and on our way down now to number the 2nd, we have the Tier 9 American Destroyer, the Benham. Another torpedo boat. The Benham is just, I don't know who saw this thing, saw the torpedo powers it has. It's got 4 launchers, 2 per side, and they reload in 60 seconds. With a 10.5 kilometer range, 75 knot torps. Yeah, who said this was okay? It's not. It is most definitely not. Now the Benham, the way you did acquire her back in the day was through the what was it called? It was the Battle Royale event that we had a couple of years ago. You had to grind your life away in that mode in order to acquire her. And then after that, you can only pick her up in Christmas containers or super containers, which I did get this ship in a super container. This is one of the literally 2 ships I've gotten out of super container before. And yeah, this is another torpedo boat that's so good, even I can get very, very, very nice results with it. For me, she's like one of the best torpedo boats to have if you have an enemy push coming down your flank and you simply want them to stop. Again, your torpedo tubes reload in around 60 seconds if you build into it. So what you do with the Benham is, with the 2 torps on one side, you dump those 2 torps toward the enemy team that's pushing toward you, turn your ship around, dump those 2 torps to the enemy team that's pushing toward you. By the time you turn your ship back around to the other set of torpedoes, they probably only got 20 seconds left to reload, and you just keep vomiting out torpedoes. And through sheer volume of torpedoes, you will most definitely hit what you are torpedoing. And they're not like the pan-European torpedoes either. No, these torpedoes do in fact actually hurt. And unlike a lot of torpedo boats too, the Benham's guns are fairly usable. I'm not saying it's a gunboat, but if you do need to use them, you can. A good tip is that, once you get your torpedoes off from the target and you get a couple instances of flooding on whatever ship you're torpedoing, once they damage con the first instance of flooding, if you can use the smoke screen that it has and just, open up on them with your guns, get a couple of fires burning on them, and now their ship is burning down, and of course throw some more torpedoes at them, because your torpedo tubes are going to reload before their damage con comes back off a cooldown, and now if they're not dead by that point, they will shortly be after that. But another ship that is definitely probably for the best that it is no longer available for purchase, and just like the Kamikaze, most definitely if it's in an auction, if it comes up in a super container for you, I would definitely, if it's coming out in auction, try to get it. If it's in a super container and you got it like I did, again, congratulations, your RNG is now done. Buy for the next 10 years if you get this thing in a super container. And on our way down to number 1, we have a ship that has gotten me in a bit of hot water before with my opinions of her, and that is the Tier 9 Japanese premium battleship, the Musashi, the replacement for the Missouri back in the day. So after the Missouri was pulled from the game, after being the first ever free XP ship, the Musashi replaced her as the next free XP ship. Now, the thing about the Musashi is that you take a Yamato, down tier it to tier 9, give it the early war configuration. So if you notice, the Musashi does not have that mountain of AA guns and secondary guns on either side of her superstructure. She has the good old 155s there, and that's it. And then you take a sledgehammer, bend her barrels because she has a much lower sigma than the Yami, and there you go. That's a Musashi, tier 9 Yami, like with bent barrels and no AA. And, back in 2018, 19, when this was done, yeah, thing frickin' rocked, right? You have 18.1-inch guns. You can overmatch 32 millimeters of armor at tier 9. And, of course, since they're 18-inch guns, they have, of course, great alpha, right? So when you're tier 9, you can see tier 7 games. So with the Musashi, you can see tier 7 ships and just kind of laugh at them and bully the ever-loving crap out of tier 7 battleships and overpin tier 7 cruisers usually until you get that one shell that does Citadel. And now with one shell, you've probably deleted or removed most of those tier 7 cruisers' HP, right? So yeah, thing was crazy. And of course, the tier 9 premium ship has a tier 9 premium economy, and since it is 18.1-inch guns, you can, of course, get a decent bit of damage quite easily with the Musashi back in the day. However, as the game has progressed into what it is today, tier 9 ships now have to deal with, well, one thing, a hell of a lot of CVs, a lot more gimmicks, more HE spam, super ships now, submarines, and yeah, having a less accurate Yami at tier 9 that's going to be mostly up-tiered into super ship games where there are super CVs, and you have quite literally tier 5 AA in these super ship games, going up against ships like the Malta and the Eagle and the United States and the Soviet CV, whose name is escaping me at this moment. Yeah, back in the day when we had like 4 CV lines, not that big of a deal, but today, pretty big deal, right? So yeah, that's why my opinion of the Musashi is a little lower than what it once was, and why I say there's no real need to try and, break the bank when this thing comes into the auction, because they have released the Musashi into the auction before, and my god, some people threw some money at the event trying to get it, just like some people threw a couple $1,000s at the Santa containers trying to get this a couple of years ago. I'm sure people did it this year as well, but I personally witnessed someone spend around a couple $1,000s trying to get the Musashi from the super containers. It ain't worth it anymore, fellas. Get your Yami, get your premium economy on the Yami, get the unique upgrade. Congratulations, you have a better premium ship than the Musashi, right? And throw some blue boosters on there, then you got a real credit printer on that Yami at that point. But yeah, I get it. It's a cool historical ship. It's the Yami sister ship. It's 2 of 2, right? And it's I get why you would want it for collector reasons, but just for like pure gameplay reasons, it's just get the Yami. It's a lot better in terms of the gun accuracy, and you do actually have some AA at least. I know AA is kind of like hit or miss today, but you got something at least, where with the Musashi you got nothing. But for back in the day, was most certainly a credit printing ship. But if you do have it, if you do get into a tier 7 game, or you do get into a high tier game with no CVs, yeah, it does do quite well. Just what you got to do to get it today absolutely isn't worth it. Again, unless you get lucky and get it in a premium container or a center container or a super container. So guys, those are my top 5 rare premium ships. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments down below as well. And let me know your top 5 rare premium ships down there in addition to what I have in this list. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 75,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday and wonderful rest of your week. And if you're in this winter, day after tomorrow weather that we're having here in the United States, stay safe, stay warm, get your doggos and cattos inside, and keep them nice and comfy. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.